We start with the nigun this Shabbat, a wordless melody. All you need to know is yai dai dai, and continue to let the music wash over you and just feel the presence and spirit of Shabbat.
Feel the peace of Shabbat. Thank you.
Well, Shabbat Shalom, friends. Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to our Shabbat table. So really, as in pull up a seat. Imagine right now that we're not in the big fancy room. Imagine where we're like you, at home, a comfy space, a comfy place to sit. Perhaps for those of you of age, a nice glass of something nice. We're sitting around our table tonight. Tonight is our Shabbat table. It's a service that's a bit more relaxed, informal, musical, and hopefully with your help, bring a lot of that Shabbat energy. One of the beautiful things about Shabbat, and some of you may have grown up like this and experienced it, some of you may be experiencing it just now, is the beautiful thing about a Shabbat table when we just get to sit around together, telling stories, singing songs, having wonderful conversations with each other, and we're just bringing all of ourselves there. That's what we're trying to create, even in the big sanctuary, even virtually. We're trying to create our Shabbat table. So what you need to do what you need to do. Maybe it's relax a little bit, lounge a little bit. If you think you're coming into a formal space, just, hey, welcome back from Senegal. Hey, welcome home. Just be here at our Shabbat table. And we encourage you, most importantly of all, to sing, 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 sing if you know the words, sing if you don't know the words, if you want to move your body and dance. If you're at home, get up and move around your table. Make a big old dance party in your kitchen or living room. Just go for it. That's the beauty of our Shabbat table tonight. And we sing first with a song of praise, Or Zarua. Is that what we're starting with?
We're going to have our candles first.
Oh my goodness, I forgot the candles. We can't have Shabbat without the candles.
But which is only apt that we're singing Or Zarua.
Only
It's
apt.
about sowing light and bringing joy into our lives.
You're right, yep, that's right there.
It's okay.
So what we want to do for our Shabbat table, to light the lights of Shabbat, and for those of you at home or wherever you find yourself, if you have candles, bring them on up so we can light them together. What we'd like to do for our Shabbat table to light the candles is to celebrate people, especially people who have birthdays. If you have a birthday this week, or we can more generalize it this month, we love to invite you up to help light the candles for Shabbat. So primarily, let's say if you have a birthday in the month of April, is it April? It's April.
Yes.
It is April.
It's Nisan.
The only person in the room or the month of Nisan. So you have a birthday in the month of April, the month of Nisan. Late March, if you want to add a late March in there.
Basically,
Thank you, Ariana.
Since Purim.
Early, right. Jacob, Ariana.
There we go.
Come on, oh, good. Thank you for the correction.
Oh, you're so good.
And we celebrate these birthdays. We celebrate these wonderful moments. Yay, Toby.
Aww.
You're doing it on behalf of your daughter. Oh, the one who's hiding right now. But the one who's working right now. The one who's working right now. Hi, Jamie. Happy birthday, Jamie.
Our magician behind the camera.
If you'd like to follow along in the prayer book, it's on page number 2. For those of you joining at home or in the person with a tablet, there is a flip book available on our website that has the exact same pages. So page number 2, would you mind lighting the candles for us on Shabbat? And you can come closer to the candles if you're comfortable doing so. You're welcome to. Nice. Light your candles at home as well. So multi-accessly, we're bringing the light in Shabbat, bringing the light into our eyes around our big open table. And on page number 2, we join in the blessing to welcome in Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
And the Yom Huladat Sameach, previously, currently, futurely coming up. Happy birthday to those of you nearby and near around. Happy birthday, Jamie. And may we have a beautiful day celebrating together. Before we sing Ozar Ruah, which is on page 14, before we sing Ozar Ruah, which we want your energy to get us in the right energy mode, find a memory, find a moment, maybe from the past week, maybe from the past month, maybe from the past whenever, when you really felt that burst of joy. It's ready to jump into something. Maybe it was seeing a friend. Maybe it was, I can't think of another example. Maybe it was a new project you're working on at home.
Tasty treat.
Maybe it was a movie or TV show or a great joke you heard, but you're just ready to jump into that emotional energy. Find it. Find that moment. Find that memory. Find that memory. On page 14, we sing beautifully together, Ozar Ruah. Grab an egg shaker. Ozar Ruah, Matzadi, Ulishre Lesimcha. Ozar Ruah, Matzadi, Ulishre Lesimcha. Ozar Ruah, Matzadi, Ulishre Lesimcha. Ulishre Lesimcha. Ozar Ruah, Matzadi, Ulishre
Sorry,
it.
the
There we
energy
go.
just really
I like
was
that.
going.
Yeah, the energy like just jumped up. That was keep it going. Home. Yeah, I can't use words. Page 299. Page 299. A tradition some people have around the Shabbat table is to offer words of blessings to those who love you and care for you. Often it's to younger generations, grandparents blessing parents, parents blessing children. Or we'll just broaden this to blessing those who love us and care for us. So on the bottom, so technically it's the middle at page 229. We're going to do we can do the priestly blessing together. If you'd like, no one is obligated to put your hands on or nearby or even around those that you love, those that you care for, of a different generation, or just those that are important to you. Or if they're not in this room, to bring into mind that visual picture of those you just deeply love and you want to bless on this Shabbat. We'll say together these lines in Hebrew and in English. It says where it says for both boys and girls, but let's say for all people. We'll say the priestly blessing and bless those we love together. Let's say together in Hebrew and English. Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chunecha. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. Let's say in English too. May God bless you and keep you. May God's light shine upon you and be gracious to you. May you feel God's presence within you always, and may you find peace. If you want to seal that with a hug or a kiss, you're more than welcome to, unless you're doing this for a teenager, then I would recommend against it. Page 24. Let's keep on singing. Shalom Aleichem, peace upon all of us. We welcome in each other. The angels of Shabbat welcome us, and we welcome them. Let's sing together, Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Malchei Sharei, Malchei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Malchei Sharei, Malchei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Malachem Shalom, Malachem Shalom, Malachem Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Sing Shem Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei
The energy can be high. The energy can also be brought internal. So take all the energy we just had on page 34, bring it all inside for the words of Shema. Let's keep the shakers down a little bit, just a little bit. On page 34, we sing as oneness with the words of Shema. Some have the tradition to stand. Some have the tradition to remain seated. Whatever tradition is yours, we invite you to do so. But our voices join as one here and across the city for Shema, page 34.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Shema
If you are standing, please be seated. We continue with Ve'ahavta on page 36. It's an honor to invite up Mariah Klein-Lang, who becomes Bat Mitzvah tomorrow morning. Mariah will be leading all of us, so all of us will join with her for Ve'ahavta. Again, come on up. On page 36. Thank you, Mariah and Scout.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha uv'chol nafshecha uv'chol me'odecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha Hayam Olivavecha Vishinantam Levanecha Vidibartabam Beshivtecha Bevetecha Levlechtecha Baderech Uvshochbecha Uvgemecha Ukshartam Leot Al Yadecha Ve'hayu letotafa beineinecha ultavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tizkeru vasitem et kol mitzvotai v'yehtem kedoshim Elohim Ani Adonai Elohim Asher Otzaiti Ethem Me'eretz Mitzrayim Lehio Lahem Elohim Ani Adonai Elohim
Adonai Elohim. Kol Kavod.
Yashkoach.
Thank you, Mariah. Our Shabbat table continues on page 42. Hashgivenu, a beautiful prayer for the evening to protect us as the sun starts to set. Hashgivenu. It'll be a special place for the shakers. Wait for it. Gently.
Spread the shelter of
keep on singing together, page 62. Let's keep on singing together. Page 62.
So, in case you didn't realize, our Shabbat table would not be so sweet without our incredible musical professionals. I feel like I am just embraced with a sense of wholeness and a sense of healing, which is what Shabbat is all about. But we know that there are those among us who are in pain and in need of healing. And maybe there are those in our lives who we're thinking about at this moment who are worthy of our prayers for healing. We know that there are so many around the globe, whether they've been impacted by COVID-19 or by the war in the Ukraine, But we also know that there are those in our individual lives. So if you're joining us online, please share the name of anyone that you'd like included in our prayer of healing. We say these prayers even at our Shabbat table in the chat. And I'll invite anyone who's here to share out loud the name of anyone you'd like included in our prayer of healing. Yes. Feel free to just say out loud the name. With everyone we've named out loud, anyone we put in the chat, and I know some of us held someone in our hearts. We continue now with our Mishaberach, our special formula for our prayer for healing. Some of the words are on page 253. May each and every one know a full and speedy healing of body and of soul. And so in just a moment, we're going to say our concluding prayers and have an uplifting song of conclusion to this Shabbat table. But we always like, whenever we gather, to make sure that we have a question or two that you can take with you when you leave this sanctuary. And you may not know it, but this is a pretty big Shabbat. I mean, literally. It's called Shabbat HaGadol. Shabbat, the big one, is one translation of that Hebrew. And the reason why this is called Shabbat, the big one, is because this is the Shabbat right before Passover. And so how many of you know what Passover is about? Raise your hands. All right, could someone shout out for me nice and loud so I can hear? What is the story of Passover all about? What's that? Eating. Freed from slavery. Thank you, Birgitta. And I think I heard being freed from Mitzrayim back there. And was that Max who said that? Awesome. So bing, bing, bing. My teaching is over. Thank you. We are being freed from slavery. That is what Passover is all about. But the thing is, we have it, but we live it, right? We have a plate on our table called the Seder plate, and it has symbols of that story. We don't just tell the story, we eat the story. We don't just tell the story, we sing the story. We don't just tell the story, we reenact the story. And part of that is everything that's on the Seder plate. So on the Seder plate, there's charoset, which is like the apples and honey and everything, right? There's bitter herbs known as maror. There are greens, there's eggs, there's matzah, there's a shank bone, or in some of our homes, a beet. You know, it's still kind of bloody, or at least looks a little bloody. Each of those pieces has a special symbolism. The egg symbolizes new life. The horseradish symbolizes bitterness. Well, over the years, how many of you, by a show of hands, put something else in addition to what is on the Seder plate? I'm seeing quite a few hands. I bet some of you at home also have that. Jamie, if you don't mind showing the first slide. We have just 2 slides here. I promise you this will get to a question that you're going to take with you home. So there is a Seder plate. There's all the stuff that we just talked about. The horseradish, the parsley, the charoset, the bitter herbs, the shank bone, the egg. All have great symbolism. And then on the other side, you might notice there's a whole bunch of other stuff. I'll tell you, a gazillion, trillion, quadrillion years ago, when I was a rabbinical student, I had an aunt say to me, "Ruth, aren't you going to put an orange on your Seder plate?" And I said, "Aunt Ann, I have no idea what you're talking about." And Aunt Ann said, "Well, if you put an orange on a Seder plate, it means that you support women rabbis." And I was like, "Sign me up. I support women rabbis. I'm putting an orange on my Seder plate." It was only many years later that I learned that is the wrong teaching of what the orange on the Seder plate is all about. And in fact, Susanna Heschel, who is the daughter of a great Jewish teacher, Abraham Joshua Heschel, was talking to some lesbian students one time in the 1980s, and they wanted to somehow reflect their experience. They felt like they've been freed from slavery. They felt like they came out of a dark place because they were living freely their lives. And they suggested that they put a piece of bread on the Passover plate because they felt like they didn't quite fit in and they wanted to push the boundaries. And Susanna Heschel said, "You know what? I don't think that's maybe the best thing to do because that'll make the whole Seder not work because you always need to have unleavened bread on the table. But why don't we put an orange on the Seder plate and the seeds will spit out, and that'll be we're spitting out the prejudice." So now when we put an orange on the Seder plate, we're supporting everyone who was once told they didn't fit in. You know, whether it is a woman who was told she can't be a rabbi, a queer child who was told there's no place for them. That's why we put the orange in on the Seder plate. So you see a whole bunch of other things there too, right? Olives, Some people through the years have put olives on for peace in the Middle East. There's a tomato. A tomato is there because we want to support our farmers and our farm workers, many of whom maybe don't get a living wage, and so we support that. There's an artichoke there. The artichoke, literally everything has been added to the Seder plate. The artichoke is one of my favorite because it talks about having a spiky heart, a very soft heart that's surrounded by some spiky, thorny things, and yet it's this beautiful, unusual plant. And it's there. A Jewish interfaith family organization suggested that that's a beautiful symbol of interfaith families. It's a little prickly sometimes, but has a soft, beautiful heart at the center. So all of these are ways to add to your Seder plate. I'm going to just share one more. So Jamie, if you'll just show the next one. So this is an acorn on the Seder plate, and this is something that one community has done. They put an acorn, because within the acorn, the oak tree exists, and it is to acknowledge the fact that any one of us who is experiencing a Seder in North America is doing it on indigenous lands, and it is a way of gratefully acknowledging that this Seder, where we recall and celebrate our liberation, is happening here in Seattle. It's happening on Duwamish tribes' lands, and so we thank our indigenous relatives, past and present, whose prayers and ceremonies have imbued this land with sacredness. You can turn off the slides now, Jamie. Thank you so much. And so that's something you might want to add. I'm thinking about adding that to my Seder this year, and I will just parenthetically share with you that we at Temple Beth Am have begun to donate on a monthly basis to the United Indians of All Tribes Foundation as a way of acknowledging that we are able to be a sacred community because we are on indigenous lands. And so we'll be sharing more about that in the weeks ahead. So here's my question for you. I had someone once say to me, doesn't it feel kind of weird to add to the Seder plate? It feels a little funny. And sometimes things are added. I asked someone a couple of weeks ago, do you remember why several years ago we put a banana on a Seder plate? Does anyone remember why we put a banana on a Seder plate? You do? Well, can you say it nice and loud?
I believe it was when the young child washed up on the shore.
Beautiful, beautiful. It was. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, it was for the Syrian refugee child who was washed up on the shore, and the idea of the banana was to wrap all our children safely. And but many years later, you might forget it. So there is a rabbinic colleague of ours who's suggesting maybe in this case more is less. Maybe the more we add to the Seder plate, the less meaningful it becomes. And maybe all we need is just the plate itself, because that story about liberation can be anyone's story. So the first question I have for you to ask one another at your dinner is, do you think we should be adding to the Seder plate so we can learn more about different stories of liberation in our time? Should we add to the Seder plate? And if your answer is yes, what should we add? So those are the two questions. And if you have any answers after dinner that feel like really good answers, will you email one of us so we can have that answer to share it with others? So should we be adding things to our Seder plates? And if so, what should they be? And with that, we recognize that Seder is really supposed to be something fun, something engaging, but also something that helps us see the world that we're living in just a little differently. And so we do that as a way of bringing these wonderful experiences from our time together, whether we're together as a family or together as a community, into the world. And one of the ways that we do that every week as a synagogue community is we always remember the people who once stood by our side. That one of the really wonderful ways that we can live together is to keep the memory of those who inspire us alive through our own actions. And in that spirit, right now, I'd like to remember Adam Benjamin Meltzer, son of Ron, stepson of Gail, brother of Dana, and uncle of Catherine and Sarah, and also son of Nancy of blessed memory. And we also remember Ruth Arlene Epstein, mother of Gail Rosenberg, mother-in-law of Morris, mother of Lizzie, mother-in-law of Jeff, grandmother to Dory and Max and Emmett. And we're also remembering this week these loved ones who have died in the month that has passed. George Euston, husband of Marcia, father of Matthew and Kate Goodman, father-in-law of David and grandfather of Madeline and Charlotte. Jemima Gahung Anyir, mother of Paul Caramera and mother-in-law of Shelley Rosen. And we also remember those who died in Sacramento by gun violence. And at this time, we remember these loved ones whose yahrzeits fall on this Shabbat: Steve Adler, Chris Allen, Samuel Antupit, Jean Blacklow, Verna Burton, Lily Buxbaum, Jeanette Cushing, Moshe Ellinger, Erwin Ginsberg, Harvey Goldfarb, Lloyd Kaplan, Mildred Katz, Pauline Kalin, Sidney Kalin, Roberta King, Gloria Klein, Arnold Kremen, B. Lieberman, Walter Lowen, Bluma Liss, Helen Ostro, Bonita Pawelek, Morris Piha, Stanley Siegel, Herman Smith, Stanley Strassman, Deoda Vivas, Robert Wagner, Joshua Wald, Myra Weinberger, Robert Weitzman, Libby Wolf, Saul Wortman, and anyone that you might add in the chat or say out loud now. If you've lost a loved one in the last week or the last month, I invite you to please rise and remain standing. Or in the last year, please rise. Or if you're here this evening remembering a yahrzeit, please rise. And then as one community will rise, because we take this moment of memory and we are inspired by the lives that preceded ours, as we say the words of the Mourner's Kaddish on page 294. Yikadal v'yikadash shemei rabbah, v'alma divra chirute v'amlik malchute, b'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye dekol Beit Yisrael, bagala uvizman kari v'yamru, amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mivrach le'olam almei almaya, Yit barak v'yishtabak v'yit pa'ar v'yit ramam v'yit naseh v'yit hadar v'yit haleh v'yit halal shmei dekudasha b'rechu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran v'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Zikronam livracha, may their memories be for blessing, amen. And so please be seated. And as I mentioned, so from now on, whenever we gather on Friday evenings, we are going to acknowledge a deep debt of gratitude that Temple of Beth Am, as we have these prayers bringing us together, as we have the privilege of celebrating Shabbat, we are on Duwamish lands, and we are very grateful for that and for the indigenous cultures that came before us. So that's actually, even as we have to acknowledge that there's some pain there, that's a joy to be able to make that kind of healing as a community. And we always like to, on Friday evenings, especially on these Friday evenings, to share other joys that we might have experienced in the week that has passed or the week ahead. So I'm wondering, maybe there's some big life cycle event happening in, 18 hours or so, or maybe you had something else happen to you this week. Can we share some simchas, some joyous events that happened? And if you have something online, please share it in the chat. Yes, Linda. Yay! So Sarah is coming home, and it was a surprise. I am so grateful that you're all here and not at UW's ER. So, but Sarah, you're a sight for our eyes, even for your rabbis. It's wonderful to see you and welcome home. I'm glad you traveled safely. Anyone else? Anyone else? I'm wondering if maybe. Thank you. Mariah, we want to say a huge mazel tov to you, to your parents, to your brother, to your whole family on becoming bat mitzvah tomorrow, 10:30. Any other special simchas to share? We have to have, Louis, I can always count on you to find some joy. So, wonderful. So Louis just made some plans to go back east, visit his mom in New York, and enjoy all that New York has to offer in springtime. And on behalf of all mothers everywhere, thank you for doing that, Louis. Anyone else? Yes, Ronnie. Wonderful. Your grandson, who's an honorary member because he traveled with us, yes, is here to visit. Wonderful. Well, for all these simchas, this is what Shabbat's about, to not let these little joys pass us by, to really celebrate them. With that said, I think it's time to make Shabbat a sacred event. I'd like to invite Mariah to come on back as Mariah leads us in Kiddush. At home, if you happen to have something great to bless, we'll continue now with our Kiddush. Mariah, please come on up. You want to hold this. Ooh, you probably should have taken this off before because it's kind of funky. Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Baruch atah Adonai
Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu b'shabbat kodsho ve'ahava uvratzon himhilanu zikaron l'maaseh bereshit ki hu yom tefillah L'mikra kodesh, zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim, kivanu v'acharta, v'yotanu kidashta, mikol hamim, v'shabbat kodshecha, ve'ahava uratzon, imchaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat.
And then if you'll take a sip, Mariah, take a sip. Perfect. Wonderful. And you can have a seat back. Yasher Koach, nice job. And now I'm going to put my mic on So back in the before times, as some of you may remember, we used to stand up and put our arms around each other. We're not quite ready for that yet, but I will say if you are willing to stand up for the Hamotzi, and Rabbi Dana and I will demonstrate, we can keep an arm's distance and connect if we connect by elbows. So let us do that together. And we're wondering, is there someone out there who would love the taste of challah at home tonight, but who doesn't have a challah at home? I see someone's arm way up in the back. Would someone like to volunteer to come on up and take the challah home with them? Come on up. Awesome. All right. And then, terrific. Oh, nothing's better than a challah that's about to be eaten. All right, please join us.
Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz, b'te'avot.
Vivian, take a bite to make sure it's a kosher blessing.
And that the challah is good.
We want to say thank you to our shamashim. Bring back your books to the card out there. Thank you to our amazing musicians. We're concluding with this Shamru, Sean Weaver's very own composition, page 44.
This Shamru